Hospitals smell like alcohol pads and band-aids. That's how I knew where I was. Hey, look, I think she's waking up. I think she can hear us. Lady, can you hear us? Can you hear what we are saying to you? I didn't know where the voices were coming from and I didn't care to find out. A rubber gloved hand pulled at the skin beneath my left eye and flashlight stinging. I sat straight up in the hospital bed. Hold on, young lady. You're gonna have to lie back and relax. We're running a few tests, making sure everything is okay up there. The doctor chuckled and poked at my forehead. I told you, Rita. Angie spoke up from the chair in the corner. I think this job is getting the best of you. Or you need to get to work. Irma's ghost sat next to Angie. I can hold this door all day. A bright light rose behind her as I watched shadows move through and around her. I tried to shake off Irma and the whitened sick haze in the room. Lights bubbled and circled around Irma and Angie. Features emerged like faces, silhouettes through clean white sheets on a clothesline. They passed in and out and talked in a million hushed voices. I had to get far away from Irma and this place as soon as possible. When there are one or two of them, their voices are manageable, but a hospital full of lost souls had their eyes on me now, knowing I could hear them thanks to Irma. I felt their deaths, just like the winter scene, and it was getting worse. Rita, are you okay? Angie pressed. What's the matter with your eyes? Can she see us? A little ghost asked. I heard that she could see us. Oh, she can see you just fine, Irma offered. She can hear you too. I looked down at the little girl. She was a shell of white light. Something about children's voices always forced me to look. She looked at me. She raised a finger to her face. She can see. She can. The ghost of a man in an orange construction vest pushed the little girl aside. Help us. Please help us. I stood feeling the stings of the wires, tubes, and cables still attached to me. I headed toward the hallway, pulling all of it with me. Rita, don't. Angie tried to stop me, but I pushed her back as hard as I could. I couldn't even hear her voice anymore among the voices of a million ghosts going on at once. Please, you need to let your daughter know that I left the key for the box in my desk. The construction worker's ghost was once again in my face. Do you know where my mom is? I've been waiting for her a long time. The little girl tried to pull at my fingers. A woman spoke in Spanish. I don't even know how to say this, you guys. Ayúdeme, por favor. I felt her heat on my arms, por favor. A teenager, still in her hospital gown and with cuts on her arms, tried to snatch my hair. Are you a doctor? Can you give me something you know for the pain? Her voice was indifferent and raspy. Her heat, the smell of a freshly struck match. There were hundreds of them. They all spoke at once in different languages, in different tempos and volumes, and tried their best to get my attention. One man's ghost pushed all the others aside. It looked like he had taken a gunshot to his face. Half of it was gone. His left eye hung loosely in its socket. Tell my wife it was an accident. I never would have done this to myself. Never. The gun, it just dropped, fell on the ground. Please. I couldn't take my eyes off him. Rita, look at me, Rita. Angie pressed her fingers into my face. What is the matter, Rita? What's going on? They're all here, Angie, I answered. You should never have brought me here. Get me out of here. Get me out of here now. It doesn't matter how far or hard you run, Rita. Irma stood at Angie's side. We will find you. The pressure in my head was unraveled. My nose started to bleed again, the warmth spreading over my lips, my chin, and my neck. The ghost felt my own life force and tugged on it like a rotten tooth. In a surge of panic, I yanked at the wires attached to my body. Oh my God, Rita. Angie pulled a towel from a side table and handed it to me. Your nose, you must stay here. There could be something seriously wrong with you. If we all hold on to her, she won't be able to say no. The construction worker was determined. Everyone hold on to her, and they did. I felt all their bony and cold fingers on my face, my back, my hair. Their force wrenched me so hard I thought my arms would be jerked from their sockets, that every hair would be plucked from the follicles. The pain was descending pulsation. It was the pain of death, the ache of decay, the voices Grandma and Mr. Batilli warned me about, the darkness that stays. Irma was doing this for me. They had never been able to touch me before. Get me out of here, Angie, I pleaded. Angie, please. Angie grabbed a blanket from the bed and wrapped it around my shoulders. She held me up the best she could, her strong hands beneath my arms, and led me out of the examination room. The ghosts writhed and screamed at me in the corridor, desperate to come close to me, to feel one last pulse of life in their dead existence. I couldn't keep my head up anymore. I wrapped myself into the blanket and into Angie, feeling her pulse strong and steady. My own barely beating heart was a thin, deliberate pulse marked by the running of blood from my nose and arm. Please help me find my mom. The little girl yanked the blanket so hard that it flew off my shoulders and onto the floor. I watched her light morph to black, her face contorted by darkness. Find my mother now. The living inhabitants of the ER sat staring at us blankly, their injuries fresh and their bodies alive. Excuse me. The doctor was running toward us. Where are you going? The automatic door flew open and blasted Angie and me with air and the beginnings of a light snow. We moved as fast as we could into the crime scene van parked outside. Once inside, I looked to the rear to make sure none of the others were there with us. It was empty of ghosts, but there was my camera. My camera was broken in two, the lens free from my body and dented along the rib edges of the lens threads. What happened? I asked, holding two pieces. Everyone on scene at Judge Winter's house saw you stagger down the steps and land flat on your face and on top of your camera. Angie looked at me out of the corner of her eye as she pulled out into the street. So are you going to tell me what happened in there? And don't try to tell me nothing happened. I've never seen you so scared. Never. I had no idea that the county hospital was full of souls. I was a testament to my own weakness. I don't know what to tell you, Angie. I felt alone, terrified. All this time I thought I was in control, but now I found myself drowning, looking for the surface. I'm haunted. What do you mean you're haunted? Angie stopped at the light. You need to quit this job, Rita. You're finally gone off the deep end. I can see ghosts sometimes. I could feel my arm pulsing where I'd torn the IV out. I pressed my coat onto the wound. I don't know how else to explain it. I used to be able to control it, but now they know it's Irma. Angie was quiet in the worst of ways. I didn't know what else to say, only adding to the suppression of sound. I think you should quit, she said at last, or maybe I should let Samuels know what's going on. They're not hallucinations, I shouted. They've been talking to me for years, ever since I was a little girl. Maybe we should schedule an appointment with the department shrink. Angie pulled up to the front of my building. I'm going to talk to Samuels in the morning. I think you've been overworked the last few weeks. How many scenes have you been on in the last couple of days? I'm going to recommend at least a week off and monitor counseling with the department psychologist. She paused. You know, the work we do isn't easy. We see the worst of people. It is okay to say you need help. It's okay to admit that you're having a problem. Thanks for the ride, Angie. I grabbed my broken camera. I was tired of trying to explain myself, and Angie was obviously not on the fast track to believing me. Rita, you need to go to the shrink. Angie shouted at me through the glass. I won't tell Samuels about the hospital, okay? I didn't care what she told him, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't care if I ever went to work again. Somehow I had let the whole thing get away from me. I was desolate and lonely, standing outside with a broken camera, wrapped in my muddy work coat with bloody tissue sticking out of my nostrils. Something had to change. My body tripped and staggered like a drunk, the empty halls of the building echoing with every step. I looked up to see my floor in darkness. Mrs. Santalanes was sitting in the shadows, as quiet as a cotton ball. Hello, Mrs. Santalanes. I hope I didn't wake you. I took the last 2 steps, my legs stinging with muscle burn. Rita, Miss Santalanes looked at me like I was a wounded dog. Are you all right? She pointed to my jacket. My sleeve had a broad semicircle of blood in the crook of the arm. She pulled me inside her apartment. I had never been to Mrs. Santalane's apartment long enough to see everything. I noticed the photographs right away. On the walls along the front hallways, Mrs. Santalane's had photographs framed in order of date. A color photo of her and some young children, and a black and white photo of a very elegant woman and a child. And another photograph, a tiny type of a beautiful but mysterious woman. All their eyes were the same. You like the tin type? Mrs. Santalene stared at the image. It's my abuela. She used to work at the drugstore at Atrisco, handing out remedies to whoever came in. She straightened the picture. She was a tough lady. They used to call her a witch because she knew more than she should. Mrs. Santalanes scuffled toward the kitchen and banged the back of one of her kitchen chairs. Sit down. I could not stop looking at her kitchen. In each corner of the room there were small shelves that held wrapped bundles of dried leaves and vines alongside small statues of the Virgin Mary and Jesus. There were crucifixes on every wall and every shelf, sitting on tables, counters, and surfaces, even drawn on a small chalkboard alongside of one of Mrs. Santalane's grocery lists. When I turned to see out of her small kitchen window, Jesus met my stare, his frozen eyes in tears. Take that jacket off, Miss Santalanes ordered. When I removed my jacket, I could feel the sticky adhesive of skin and blood. There was no way that night would ever be washed out of it. Mrs. Santalanes straightened my arm. That looks terrible. Look at that bruise. How did you get this? She stared at the hole in my arm. I was in the hospital last night. Well, this morning, the sun was finally heaving itself over the horizon. I had to leave quickly. She cleaned the skin with peroxide, sealed it up with gauze and strip of electric tape. I'm sorry about the tape. It's all I have, she said. Thank you, Miss Santalanes. The lesion in my arm had stopped pulsing. What is this? She pointed. I turned to see some blood on my side. Pull up your shirt. Let me see your back. She turned on the light, lifted my shirt over my ribs, and immediately began making the sign of the cross. Oh my God, I can't even say it. H-I-J-A. Hee-haw? Look at your back. She walked me over to her mirror in the foyer and showed me what she was referring to me. Mira, who did this to you? There were at least 20 or 30 small and large bruises and 2 sets of handprints right above my elbow. I'll be fine, I said and pulled my shirt down. She crossed herself again. I could see that she was shaken as she began to take jars down from the cabinets and mix, pour, and stir. She poured some tea into 2 small cups and brought them over to the table. Is this some of your special tea? Something to put me to sleep? I absorbed the warmth of steam in my nostrils. No, that's just Lipton. She slammed 4 small jars on the table. You need to put these in your corners of your bedroom so that you can get some sleep. If anything bothers you, you must ignore it. I didn't ask any questions. She pulled an egg from her apron and began to rub me with it over my head, down my arms and legs. She moved to her cupboard, then pulled out a glass and filled it with water from a canister on her table. She cracked the egg in the water and I watched the yolk sink to the bottom. Take this and put it under your bed too. Whoever has their eye on you will let you go. I walked into my apartment and went straight to the bedroom, placing Miss Santoline's mixtures in the corners of the room and the glass egg under the bed. Old superstitions, I'm sure, but I was at the edge of sanity. Irma was already there, sitting on the edge of the bed, watching me. I'm dead, Rita. I swear I will get on it, Irma. Just give me a chance to rest, I begged. Chapter 16. The day I left Grandma's house, Grandma and I were both pretended that it was not happening. I fed the dogs and gave them water. I sat with Grandma on the floor beside her rocking chair and watched one of her soap operas with her. We bagged piñon nuts and put bundles of dry tea into plastic containers. We packed my clothes and my pictures, but I left my Acrylite camera there on her dresser. That would be what I used when I came home. We both cried when I said goodbye, even though Grandma told me not to. You're not supposed to cry when someone leaves you. It puts the bad spirits into your journey, Grandma said, tears falling down her cheeks. Grandma stood outside in the late summer heat, one of those wet flour bags around her neck, her face shiny with tears and sweat. I cried the whole way back to my mom's house. As I acclimated myself to the new realities of city life, I still longed for the heat, dry days of Tohatchi. I walked the sidewalks of my mother's neighborhood, taking pictures with my mother's Instamatic. There was a bad-tempered drunk at the end of the block who snuck up on one fall afternoon. The folds of his eyelids were heavy and created a tapestry of skin on his eye socket. Something about the way the light hit the old man made him look like a tired seraph, his wings tucked behind his blanket of newspaper. When we heard the shutter of my camera, he jumped from his bench and knocked me back into the street, his laughter permeating our surrounding as he helped me off the ground. You owe me a pack of smokes for that picture, you know, he grunted. He was the best part about the first neighborhood. It was good to be with my mother again, but I preferred being on the reservation. I missed my grandma, her words, her voice. There was a preeminence of Grandma's house that I didn't get here with my mother. My mother didn't say much. She was a vagabond, an artist in the purest sense of the word, who was forced into jobs behind desks, filing colored folders and writing on chalkboards. She constantly fantasized, her eyes gazing into dreams. That same stare I remembered. By the time I made it to live with Mom, though I could take care of myself, I didn't need to worry about my mother's unsteady hand at parenting when I knew how to navigate the world. One day her passion for her art left like a boyfriend who claimed he still loved her. On a Tuesday, she gave me her Canon AE1 and all her lens. Why are you giving this to me, Mom? I was completely lost. This was a dream she had chased, for which she had left me with Grandma. I am giving it up, she answered, that I've outgrown it and I have a new position at the school running the arts program. I won't have the time anymore. She moved my hair out of my eyes as I looked down at the bag. You're getting better, so you need a better camera anyway. After my mom got the job, we moved from our apartment to our first house in a development on the outskirts of Santa Fe, market to the surge of retirees and big city transplants. The town was filled with hippies and middle-aged yuppies trying to find either themselves on the next buzz. We only lived there for a few months. My mother and I then moved into her boyfriend's house, which had a huge cottonwood tree in the backyard. The walls were thick and natural, made with straw-filled adobe bricks. All the windows and doorways were rounded like a hobbit's abode. The air cool and crisp. It was right by a Spanish-style church, and small improvised altars were scattered throughout the alleyway behind the adobe. In the evenings, the small altars illuminated the alleyways with sprinkles of ruby red light from the candle jars. My mom and her boyfriend were engaged within 2 months. My mom was the photographer and poet, and he was the writer. They seemed perfect for each other. Both were meticulous and intense. Both folded their clothes into 8-inch cubes and rolled their socks in rows in the dresser drawers. At first, he wouldn't tell me his name and wanted me to call him Dad. I chose to call him my mom's boyfriend. He tied a yellow rope around one of the cottonwood's highest branches and made a sturdy swing for me, still trying to win me over. It never worked. After they got married, we moved to the center of town. The house was surrounded by a deep, vibrant smell of honeysuckle bushes and orange trumpet vines. A long gated driveway led to a small guest house in the back. Couples moved in and out of there all the time. Their arrival announced my new beater car in the parking spot. I would spend my childhood perched atop the pitched roof and at the very edges of the crab apple tree that stretched out over the neighbor's yard. I watched the young immigrant family who lived next door occasionally talking to the 2 children that lived in the back room. The honeysuckle bushes constantly pulsed with the sounds of insects and feral cats, each eking out a living in the backyard. Walton was my stepfather's name, Walton Hughes. He was a white man who wore perfectly pressed t-shirts and jeans, thick wool socks, and old brown leather boots. This was his uniform, and he never deviated from it. He carried a small fingernail clipper in his pocket and would pull it out when he was outside. He kept those nails cut within millimeters of the skin, short, clean, and almost painful. He smelled like vitamins and roots and ate nothing but peanut butter and tofu cakes. He was a writer. That's what he told everyone. He was the manager of a small publishing house in town that published hippie cookbooks, natural foods, and household remedy collections. I tried to ask him about what he was writing, but he never seemed to know. Can I read it? I'd ask once. Well, it's kind of an adult story about adult things, he kept typing. I'll ask your mother if you can read it. What is it about? Hippies, sex, and drugs? I knew all about that. My mom had no filter when I asked questions. Well, I'm still finding the story, he kept typing. When you find it, please let me know, I said. I know it was irritating to have me around. I was some other guy's kid, a pain in the ass. I was a constant reminder of their responsibilities, of the fact that they had to get jobs. They were artists who wanted to live as artists. I never saw her take pictures anymore. When they got married, my grandma came in a fancy cream dress and shiny shoes. Her hair was perfect. At 9, I was the official wedding photographer. I was most proud of a photo I took of Mom and Grandma. They sat on the bench in the backyard, lit up by late spring sun. They both seemed so happy. I almost wish Grandpa's ghost had made the trip. Grandma seemed to like my mom's choice. He was friendly and had an easy smile. He also had a job. My grandma approved. She pulled me aside at the wedding and kissed me on the cheek. I guess your mom is doing okay, isn't she? Grandma squeezed my hand. Yeah, Grandma, she's doing okay. I lied. I still want to come home, though. This is your home now, Rita. She turned and watched my mom and her new husband. But if he ever lays a hand on her, you let me know. Grandma's eyes narrowed. Okay, I said. My mother and Walton were married for 6 years, and the last 5 were pure hell. They fought all the time, often turning violent toward each other. During one fight, Walton had broken one of my mom's cameras in a jealous rage. My mom returned the favor by throwing his typewriter in the street. Toward the end of their journey, they had a fight that rivaled all others. By the time I got home, the quarrel had already begun, so I didn't get the full picture, but they were both screaming at the top of their lungs. I heard something about that woman. Then I heard the cabinets open. I walked in just in time to see my mother hurling coffee mugs at Walton's head. The first 2 missed, but the third one hit with a fine, mild thump on the forehead. He grabbed his face and checked his hands for BLOOD. When he saw the crimson on his fingers, he began to grasp dishes from the shelf and hurl them at my mother. The plates hit her in the back and sides and fell to the floor in countless sharpened splinters. That is when they saw me. I stood there in my backpack, with my backpack on my shoulder, my mouth open in shock. My mom took Walton's distraction as an opportunity and heaved the giant skillet off the stove. She hit him over the head with such force that the man fell flat on my mom's new rug, a look of astonishment on his face. Get him off that rug. I don't want him bleeding on it. She raised her shirt to show the beginnings of bruises on her sides. Her hands were cut. Her face was red. I did as I was told and pulled on Walton's arm, unable to move his dead weight. His body was limp, his feet trapped under his folded body. He had a cut above his eye and a big lump on the top of his head. His t-shirt was dirty and torn, and his hair was stiff. I pulled my Instamatic from my bag and snapped his picture. Just as he was bloody and beaten on the carpet, I snapped another picture of the kitchen, which was littered with broken plates and dried tomato seeds in the ceiling. This was not the first time this had happened, but it was the worst. Walton moved out 2 days later. My mom filed for divorce. I saw him once at a vitamin store in a mall. He still smelled like vitamins and didn't even say one word to me. Chapter 17. I woke up to the dull croak of my cell phone and stuffed under a pillow with the Ziploc bag and my broken camera right beside it. I pulled a card and lens out and transferred them over to another camera, a Canon EOS 35-0D Rebel XT, and scrolled through the images until I reached the last one, Judge Winter's gunshot wound. I had bought the 350D to encourage myself to do more photography of the things I loved, something other than death. The fact that it was still in plastic said everything. My phone rang again. I didn't answer. I lay in bed and absorbed the quiet of my empty apartment, the reflections of my photographs of home, sending sunbursts throughout the room. I pulled the 350D to my eye and framed myself in the mirror. At last it was just me, alone and hungry. The refrigerator was empty as usual, but I was so relieved there was no ghost. The voices from yesterday were gone. No Irma. Having Miss Santa Lane's next door was soothing, but I knew that I needed something stronger than jars of leaves and egg to keep them away. I needed to regain my strength before moving forward, and I was going to have to call Grandma. It took 4 rings before Grandma picked up and out of breath from running to the phone. Is everything okay? She said without a hello. Hi, Grandma. How did you know it was me? I had a dream about you last night. You should come home. I will soon. I have some things to deal with here. I paused. I didn't want her to worry, but I probably needed to tell her the truth. Instead, I lied. I'm okay, Grandma. You need to come home, Rita. I could hear the shakiness in her voice tonight. I thought about Mr. Bettilly's words all those years ago. I couldn't risk bringing this brood of spirits into the last safe place I had in the world. Grandma, I felt the ache in my stomach. I can't. Send me your clothes then, she said. Take off what you're wearing right now and send it to me. I'll go over to Mr. Bettilly's house right when I get them. I knew that nothing would happen if I sent the clothes. There was nothing that Mr. Bettilly could do to get me out of what was happening now. I pulled my clothes off anyway and folded them in a stack on my couch. I'm sending my clothes to you, Grandma. I looked at the blood stains on my shirt. Don't worry, though, I'm fine. Grandma was silent. Grandma, are you there? I stared at my phone. Send them to me. I'll take care of it. I could hear in the voice that she was worried. I'll tell you more later, Grandma. Don't worry. I was scared it was going to take a lot more than Miss Santa Lane's or Grandma or Mr. Bettilly to deal with Irma. Her ghost was giving me a reprieve for the moment, but I could feel her rage building when she wanted to make herself present to me. In life, I could only imagine Irma being a force that couldn't be reckoned with. I retrieved a box from the closet and packed my clothes inside. I was going to have to overnight it. When my clothes arrived in the tiny post office box in Tohatchee, Grandma would take the box straight over to Mr. Bettilly so that he could sing for me. Mr. Bettilly didn't necessarily approve of my profession. Sometimes I guess people like you have a calling, he explained, and the fact that you're Diné doesn't change that. All we can do is say prayers for you so that the holy ones will protect you from the evil you don't know. My phone buzzed, startling me. The 2 voicemails were from Dr. Kassler, one of the psychologists at the department. I listened to them as I washed my face. Miss Todecheatney, we are attempting to schedule an appointment on a referral from Sergeant Severs from the field investigator's office. Can you please give us a call today? Thank you. The phone rang again. Rita here, I grumbled. Miss Todecheatney, this is Robert DeClane with Internal Affairs. I spoke to you last week. Oh, yes, I remember the suit, and I was thankful it wasn't the shrink. How can I help you? Well, I was wondering if you wouldn't mind meeting with me. I'm working on a case that you might have some information on. Well, today is my first day off that I've had in a really long time. I looked at myself in the mirror across from my kitchen. I looked terrible. I was hoping not to go anywhere. If you could just meet with me briefly, I'll take you to the lunch while we talk, he offered. It won't take too long. I stared at the nearly empty refrigerator humming in my kitchen and thought of the mustard sandwich that awaited me. Okay, I agreed. Where shall we meet? The cafe on Gold Street. Had been there for years, but I rarely stepped inside. It was somewhat high dollar and filled with lawyer types on perpetual lunch break. Small round tables of black iron chairs ringed the exterior, their attempt at Persian decor. I stuck out in there, the only brown face aside from the workers. I felt the stares, especially from the lawyers. They always looked me up and down. I hated them almost as much as the police. Today the cafe was nearly empty. DeClane sat staring at his phone in the corner, coffee mug at his side. He set his phone down when he saw me. Lieutenant DeClane, I extended my hand. Thank you for meeting with me on your day off. I know that you keep very odd hours. Oh, yeah. How do you know that? I didn't trust him already. I was a cop once too, you know. DeClane stirred his coffee. I guess I still am. I'm not a cop, I said. I'm a photographer, a civilian in the crime scene specialist's office. I understand, he said, but do you work for the police? How long have you been with the department? I guess about 5 years, almost 6, I said. The waitress interrupted. Can I get you 2 lovebirds anything? DeClane's face lit up and turned tomato red. The embarrassment looked good on him. What? No birdseed? I joked as I glanced at the menu. I hadn't eaten in 3 days. I'll take the burger, some of the soup and a salad, and a cup of coffee and iced tea. What about you? DeClane smiled. I'll have the pasta salad, please. The waitress grinned and gave us a wink. Lovebirds, I thought. What a bad read on the situation. So what did you bring me down here for anyway? My stomach growled like a junkyard dog. Do you know Detective Martin Garcia? DeClane began to pull a file from his bag. He was on scene with you the other day, right? Yes, I know Garcia. I have to. The honor of working with him? I noticed that DeClane had perfectly trimmed fingernails. He was also wearing cufflinks. He had pale brown eyes clear enough to direct light through, not like dark brown ones that swallowed up the sun. We're investigating Detective Garcia in a few cases that he handled a couple of years back. He wrestled with the huge file and took out his notebook. Has he done anything that you've seen that can be construed as crooked? I offered. Well, have you noticed anything suspicious or out of the ordinary? He's a jerk. But aside from lifting money off a few hoods and stealing newspapers from the cafe in the courthouse, no, I haven't seen anything. There was something nagging at the edge of my blurred recollection of the hours before I woke up in the hospital. Judge Winter's little boy's ghost pointing at a crowded doorway. Are you on a lot of the same calls as Garcia? DeClane frowned. Yes, unfortunately. My salad had arrived. I work hard not to send bits sailing across the table as I attacked it. DeClane took out a couple of photographs and laid them on the table. The 2 men in the picture were gruff and haggard. Their style made me think of the DRUG dealers types we'd see coming up from CARTELS in Mexico with their fancy sweatsuits or embroidered jeans. One was gigantic with curly dark hair and hands that looked like the ends of wings. He sported a huge scar that crossed his neck from ear to ear. I was pretty sure I'd seen him before, at least his silhouette, suspending the desperately struggling Irma over the highway. The other men had eyes the color of the ocean, which looked strange when coupled with his deep brown skin and black hair. Have you ever seen Garcia with either of these men? DeClane stared at me. Look at the pictures closely. The CARTELS were the source of a lot of DRUG and property-related crime in Albuquerque. Whatever these guys were involved in, I was sure Garcia had the capacity to be involved. The pieces were coming together in my mind, but telling DeClane about my dreamy night with Irma wasn't going to help. I had to think quickly. I think I would remember the big guy, I said. That is an incredible scar he has on his neck. It's surprising that he survived a cut that big. I scoop up the last crouton on my plate. You know Garcia was on that murder case I was on the other day, a real mess. What case was this? DeClane was finally perking up. Irma Singleton, the fatality that pushed off the bridge the other night, or jumped, I corrected myself. We aren't sure yet. I hope that Irma didn't hear that. DeClane was quiet, his forehead buckled under the pressure of his next question. Are you going to tell me what's going on? I asked. What is Garcia involved in? We don't know yet. Our witnesses have been dropping like flies. If you know something, my hope is that you would tell us. Well, the other day when I first met you at the drive-by scene, at the hotel, I wondered if I should even say anything. He was acting a little strange. He watched me like a hawk and looked pretty pissed when I noticed some Coke spilled on the rug. DeClane was scribbling in his pad and well, that's it. The rest of our food arrived and I dove right in. My body forced me to. Is there anything else you can tell me? He seemed disappointed, and I'm sure he was disgusted by the way I downed my burger. Who are the two guys in the mugshots? My mouth was full. They were two former higher-ups in a huge DRUG and Pew Pew CARTEL that has been shipping all their product through Albuquerque for the past 2 or 3 years. He pulled one of the photographs out again. The guy with the huge cut on his neck, Ignacio Marquez, has a network here in town. They get called on to move the product onto other states and up to other networks in Farmington, Las Cruces, and some reservations. DeClane pulled out another photo. This is the man they are working with. I knew who El Mayo Zambada was. He was a major player in the Sinaloa cartel in Juarez, Mexico, a lieutenant in El Chapo's army. This guy was no joke. At the Southwest Command Center, the department always brought up the Sinaloa, CARTEL, and its easily negotiable border through our state. We knew that the Nogales and Tijuana portal used to be the major hubs, but the CARTEL was beginning to push even more. CAINE and METH and HEROIN through our isolated border into El Paso. DeClane was looking through his files. He laid another photograph on the table. This is Cedric Romero. The cartel has been 5 and 7 cells here in Albuquerque, and he is one of their leaders. His family runs an upholstery shop and has a tankeria up on 4th Street. DeClane finishes coffee before continuing. He relates to Garcia in some way. We hadn't figured out how, haven't made the connection, but money is passing between them. I've never seen him. I handed back the photo. Neither have we, really. He keeps a low profile. DeClane put the photo back. APD is busting some of these METH traffickers, but a lot of them are still getting away with unaliving. And you think Garcia is the eyes and ears of the CARTEL inside the department? Yes, we do, and we think he'll do anything to keep that a secret. I picked up the photographs and looked again, staring at the cut on the guy's neck. It was brutal. I needed to figure out who he was. I don't know. I gave DeClane the back of the mugshot. I'm sorry. Well, if you see him or see anything that doesn't look right, can you please contact me at Internal Affairs? He handed me his card. I have your number already. I pushed the fruit crumbs off of my shirt and drank my cup of coffee in one gulp. Thank you for the lunch, by the way. I was starving. I can see that, he smiled, projecting the shadow of a dimple on the right side of his cheek. He stood and pulled my chair out for me. Thank you for coming down here again. No problem. I'll let you know if I hear or see anything. Or if I get really hungry, I returned a smile. Please do, he replied. So it's 8 o'clock. Let's see how long the next chapter is. Pretty long. Chapter 18. My first year in the city with my mother, as summer moved into the fall, the air was cool, especially at night when you could expect a gentle rain or a downpour with equal anticipation. I missed Grandma and Tohachi, but I had become accustomed to the convenience of the city. I was unanimous. I attended Our Lady of Guadalupe Elementary since my mom and Grandma agreed that a good Catholic upbringing might have some sort of effect on my visions, as Grandma called them. I thought the school was spooky. Gigantic crucifixes stood among and stiff in the front doorways. The shiny linoleum floor was a checkerboard of red and aged guacamole green. Students, we have a new classmate. My teacher seemed as uncomfortable as I did. I looked at the floor. Do you want me to get up and introduce yourself? I stood in front of all of them in inescapable silence, my throat dry, my tongue as pink log of steel. My name is Rita. Rita is from the Navajo Reservation, right, Rita? I nodded. Class, remember when we talked about the Navajo in our history lesson? There was silence. Well, you can go ahead and sit down, Rita. Thank you. I watched the girls point, cupping their hands around their faces and cackling at me. My voice was still steeped in the language on the reservation, my heavy Navajo accent digging in deep and hanging on my words. Selena, the blonde who headed up most of the crackling, described it best. You talk like a caveman, she yelled during lunch. The laughter spread like an infection with each young throat coated in hate. My new classmate glowed with the excitement of knowing I was different, the dirty Indian now sitting among all the white and Spanish faces, all who disliked me more than any reservation schoolyard bully ever could. I knew then I would hear the echoes of their laughter for the rest of my life, so I stood at the back of the class and took their picture with my 77X Instamatic. All their little faces were surprised and bitterly white from the flash. I got those angry little bastards. Their souls were in my box. The teacher took it away, seizing my arm with her pinching fingers. You can have this back at the end of the day, young lady. Her face white, red lips were tight with impatience. I know she thought I was a dirty Indian too. Then a small brown face emerged from the back of the class with a smile as big as a slice of grapefruit. Her name was Shanice, and she was an Indian too. She came from a pueblo only 30 minutes away from the city. We quickly became friends. We found that the two of us were a force that kept the creepy kids and nuns away. We might not have been from the same area, but we didn't care. We were brown, uncomfortable, out of place, being forced to learn about Jesus and how to throw the perfect punch when we were cornered. After a while, most of the kids and nuns knew it to just leave us alone. The untamable, wild, and godless heathens at the back of the class, we were inseparable. Shanice had irresponsible parents who rarely came home, and my mother was working. We pretty much wandered the city by ourselves, me taking pictures and Shanice posing in most of them. We roamed around the plaza getting free food from the street vendors when we picked up trash and brought them customers. We were a couple of cute little Indian girls and sometimes earned money by letting tourists take our pictures. I'm sure we were a novelty in our Catholic school uniforms. Our cheeks shiny with dry skin and our hair in coils of wild black. We would smile and take their money, $1 here and there, no one asked questions. We grew into our strange new awkward bodies together as we explored the people and the places in our town. We were happy, not bothered us. No one bothered us. I slowly surrendered to the cosmic easiness of the city, its movie screens and video games, its quadrants of stale and empty. Ballanty became my home. During junior high school, Shanice's mother took to coming home more often, mostly because the state told her they would take Shanice away if she didn't. It was good there was someone else home, though, because Shanice's grandma barely spoke English and coughed all the time. I was surprised she had lived as long as she had. When Shanice's grandma died, her mom decided to move after the summer was over. I was sad for days. Shanice and I decided to spend every day of summer together, earning as much money as we could so that we could visit each other. About a month after Shanice's grandmother died, we sat in her room, surrounded by boxes with the radio on, looking through trashy magazines and counting our change for the weekend. On the chair by the window, Shanice's grandma sat smiling, watching us like she used to when she was alive. Except she wasn't coughing, I couldn't help but stare. "Rita, what are you looking at?" Shanice stacked quarters at her desk when I didn't answer. Shanice's grandma turned her attention to me too. "Can you see me, Rita?" Her grandma's ghost smiled right at me. I must have nodded. Earth to Rita. Shanice waved her hand inches from my face. Shanice's grandma walked over to the shelf and pointed at the book. I could hear her infectious laugh as her spirit dispersed into the sun at the open window. "Are you on DRUGS?" Shanice was right in front of me, her nose touching mine. I stood up and looked at the shelf where her grandma's ghost had been pointing. "A Bible." I pulled it from the shelf and handed it to Shanice. "Why are you giving me the Bible, Rita?" She opened it. A crisp $20 bill floated to the floor. She picked it up and glared at me, half curious and half scared. "Shanice, what if I told you I could see things that other people can't see?" I was afraid of her reaction. "What do you mean?" She stood with the bill in her hand. "Like money and books on the shelves?" "Like people who are dead, ghosts." Shanice sounded excited. "Did a ghost tell you to hand me the Bible?" I didn't want to tell her that I saw her grandma. I've been able to see them for a long time. I wondered if this was the last time Shanice would ever consider me her friend. "How come you never told me?" Shanice looked disappointed, but not for long. "I have a million questions. Do you talk to dead people? Do they answer? Have you seen any famous dead people like, Elvis or anyone like that?" "No, I haven't seen Elvis." "No, I try not to talk to them. I've learned to turn them off just like a switch, but some sneak in." Shanice circled me, examining me like a lab scientist. "I can't believe this is the first time you're telling me about all this." She grabbed my face. "I thought I was your friend. What do you want me to say? It sounds like a bad movie." "Well, our Halloween certainly could have been a little more interesting." She was bubbling with excitement. "We should go to the haunted house out by the church, or over to the graveyard and see what happens." "No," I said. By the time the sun was settling, we were at the haunted house where the widow, Miss Gutierrez, used to live. The house on the hill behind the elementary school was boarded up and desolate now, the adobe wall crunching at the gate. At Halloween, all the kids would go to the house to play Ouija boards to scare the hell out of each other and prank the gullible. The story was that Mrs. Gutierrez had killed her husband and child after she found out that Mr. Gutierrez had another lady friend in town. She had meant to unalive her husband, yes, with a poison pie that she had baked, but her poor daughter decided to share a piece and died too. They said you can hear her crying up a storm every night. I didn't believe it, but I felt uneasy. I remembered Mr. Bertilli talking to me about playing with these forces. You never know what path or spirit has taken until they are in your head. Don't let them know that there is a door. Don't let them know that you are the key. We pulled our bikes along the tree line and leaned them against the withering gate. Shanice and I walked all around the house, shining a flashlight into the windows and dying cottonwoods. The sun had gone down. The full spread of darkness had moved into the Gutierrez home. Well, do you see anything? Shanice shivered in the dark. No, I said, I'm starting to get cold. Let's go. We rode off that night without seeing Miss Gutierrez or her family. I was glad. I didn't know what kind of person that Gutierrez woman was. For all I know, she could have haunted me forever. Shanice never mentioned it again, and we never went back. Maybe she got spooked. The next morning, we rode into the parking lot of one of the main summer hangouts, the pool, only to see that park adjacent had been closed for the day. Yellow tape lined the grassy border as cherry and silver lights turned in the summer sun. Police were scattered throughout the park, talking among themselves and taking photos of whatever was behind the sheet they were holding. We pushed through our swimming lesson and hurried to the locker room, overcome by the morbid curiosity of whatever was being concealed beyond the yellow tape. We threw our clothes on over our wet swimsuits and ran for the soccer field, where we could get a better view. One man was still taking photographs, and I whipped out my 77X and took a few pictures. I had never seen a scene like this. The sheet was now gone. A young man's body lay there in the heat beneath the two cottonwood trees, one shoe missing, his arms outstretched. We watched in silence as the man moved the body into a body bag, then into a waiting car. The men left one by one, taking with them the streams of yellow tape, leaving behind only their footprints. When the last of them were gone, Shanice and I walked across the street toward the trees. The BLOOD had dried in the summer heat and pulled into the dark, thirsty soil. I saw white flecks of tissue in the deep cracks of the cottonwood bark. We stared for a long time. As we turned to walk home, if I found myself looking off into another tree line, hoping that the man who left the earth was at peace. It was sick. It made me sick. Well, that was scary, Shani said. Don't you think, Rita? I stopped. I almost could breathe when he walked in front of me and stared into my eyes, a confused look on his face. Rita, are you okay? Shani said. I couldn't break his stare no matter how many times I tried. I was as if he willed me to hold his gaze. He's right there, the man spat. Rodrigo. He stood right there and watched them take me away. Do you see him? I hadn't felt a force so full of hate before. His finger pointed at a thin man in black and orange shirt. When he saw me looking, the so-called Rodrigo began walking away fast, his hair wet with sweat. Let's keep walking, Shanice, keep walking. We pushed our bikes faster. You're seeing something right now, aren't you? Shanice sounded scared. Just keep walking. I kept us moving so fast that the cramps rose in my shins. Just go over there and tell him you know. The ghost trailed us. Tell him that you're gonna tell the cops. Tell him. His voice was a scream now. Go tell him, you ugly little bitch. Tell him. We kept walking. His presence made my stomach ache, and each step made it worse. Shanice struggled to keep up. Are you okay, Rita? Look at your face. Your nose is really bleeding. Hold it like this and sit down. As she wrapped my hand around my nose, I turned around to see nothing. The screaming man had disappeared as quickly as he had materialized. I pinched my nose tighter, but the blood kept coming, puddling on the sidewalk. Shanice walked into the corner store and brought us some water, putting one of the bottles on the back of my neck. What did you see back there, Rita? I'm afraid to say. I don't know if he'll come back. We drank our water in silence. The bleeding eventually stopped, but I could help look back at the tree line, knowing that the man took another man's life back there. He told me who unalived him, Shanice. He showed me. Shanice's face filled with fear. What are you going to do? I don't know. What would I say? I know how that guy at the park died because his ghost described it to me. I don't think they would believe me. Are you just gonna keep it a secret? I could hear the pressure in her voice. You should tell the cops. You don't have to tell them how you know, but you should tell them something like the guy was looking suspicious or something like that. Shanice was right. How bad could it be? We arrived at the police station about 20 minutes later. The inside was sterile. 4 sets of 4 chairs attached to each other in rows. We waited for the woman at the reception desk to get off the phone. She wore heavy eyeshadow and chewed gum like it was supplying oxygen to her brain. Can I help you? The woman barked. Her fingernails were bright orange and black dots like ladybugs. We had some information on a body they found in the park in the North Pool, Shanice said, suddenly sounding like an adult. Hold on, have a seat, and someone will be up here to talk to you. We sat there for 30 minutes watching people come in and out. There were people in handcuffs, some spitting and carrying on. There were crying women and babies. It was quite the spectacle. I wanted to leave before any angry dead people decided to make an entrance. Can I help you two? The detective was in a foul mood and reeked of coffee and cigarettes. We had some information on the body over at the park today. Come to my office. His office was a desk in the middle of a loud room full of sweaty men on the telephone, typing away at their computers. He cleaned some crumbs off his desk and pulled a file from underneath a crinkled sandwich wrapper. Well, I'm Detective Walsh. I'm working on the case. Where are your parents? My mom is at work, I said. Mine too, Shanice elbowed me to the side. Well, I'm sure that you'll need to let your parents know what you're here for, but for now, tell me what you know. It's my friend Rita, Shanice said. She's the one who knows who did it. Well, kind of, I said. I saw a suspicious guy over the park when we were watching the guys to take pictures and stuff. He had an orange and black shirt and a funny mustache. He was really skinny. And how do you know it was him? The detective seemed skeptical. Shanice and I looked at each other. I just have a feeling. What if I were to tell you that another witness reported that there was a girl there right before the guy unalived wearing a black shirt and cut-off jeans, just like the ones you're wearing right now? This was not working out as planned. We were at our swimming lessons this afternoon, I said. You can check with our teacher, Miss Leslie. See, she's telling the truth, officer. Why would we come and tell you if we unalived the guy? He eyed me up and down. I think you two might know a little more than you're telling. He pointed at Shanice. You come with me. We're calling both of your parents. The officer pulled Shanice out of the room by her arm. I knew they had to be calling my mom. I was a minor after all. But I didn't want that screaming ghost coming back to me, not in a million years. When the creepy detective returned, he sat uncomfortably close. When are you going to tell me the truth? How do you know who unalived our victim? Do you know him? Are you one of his dealers? I didn't know what to say. I certainly couldn't tell the truth. His scraggly face leaned into mine as he put his hands on my knees and separated my legs. You can tell me. I'm here to help you. I snapped back into my chair, focusing my legs shut. The cop mimicked my move and cocked a smile. I just wanted out. His name is Rodrigo. He was wearing a black and orange shirt. The detective was silent. Then he stood and led me to a holding cell next to Shanice, who was already in tears. I believe you, Rita, she said, but my mom is going to unalive me. We should have never come. When Shanice's mom showed up, she was mad as hell. Don't you think I'm letting you spend one more day with Rita this summer? We're moving out to Mesita this weekend. We both knew right then this meant goodbye. An hour later, my mom came into the station with a look of panic. When she saw me behind bars, she started to cry. What did you do, Rita? Her mascara was running her business suit look wrinkled. Nothing, I was just trying to help. I couldn't look at her. I stared on the beach across from me, focusing on a heart with the name Donnie carved in it. I began playing my own prison carvings in my head. I was sure I was never going to get out of here. While my mom spoke to the police, I laid my head against the bars and closed my eyes. Shouts erupted from the stairwell. The next thing I knew, the bars on the adjacent cage closed on a new occupant. He had changed his shirt, but it was him. He was sweaty, breathing heavy, and labored into his chest. It was Rodrigo. After that day, I learned to keep my mouth shut. Whew, that is the end of chapter 18.